And welcome back. This week we're gonna go from the big disappointment of last week, which was the Tamron 18 to 300 millimeters, to a surprisingly good lens today. And this lens is the tiny Sigma 18 to 50 millimeters f2.8 that was just released for Fujifilm. I've never been a big fan of Sigma lenses. I've had some of them when I was shooting DSLR, meaning 10, 12 years ago, and I didn't really love them. But 10 years at least have gone by, things changed, and I'm happy to report that I changed my mind on Sigma. At least I changed my mind on Sigma thanks to this lens. I will have to try others to fully change my mind on Sigma. But sorry for the spoiler. Without any further ado, let's just go talk about this lens. And let's start from the build quality. Now, as you've seen, the lens is pretty tiny. I mean, it's basically the same size as the 33 millimeters f1.4, the brand new one, but this is an f2.8 zoom lens, which usually are big and clunky and they weigh a lot. In this case, none of that is true. The build quality is, for the most part, plasticky. I mean, you can hear that. I'm pretty sure it's not metal. So the build quality is not comparable to those of the Fujifilm top of the line lenses. But at the same time, it only weighs 285 grams, if I'm not wrong. And as I said, it's as big, it's even smaller than the 33 millimeters f1.4. There's no aperture ring, which again, it's something that sucks. We're all used to that, but with third-party manufacturers, it's something you should expect because not all of the system are based on aperture rings. So for them to cut the price, and we're going to talk about price in a bit, for them to cut prices and to make to build them in huge numbers, they just do these kind of choices. The front filter is 55 millimeters. My lens is already filthy. There's 7 rounded aperture blades, which again, not top of the line specs, but again, we're talking about a compatible lens. And again, when we talk about price, everything's going to come together. From a physical standpoint, not only it lacks the aperture ring, but the layout is completely different from Fujifilm lenses, meaning that the ring that you have closest to the body is the focusing ring, while the zooming ring is in the front of the lens, which also, and basically you cannot operate if you have the lens hood, which is made of plastic, turned upside down for storage. One other difference is it zooms the opposite way. Usually, if you want to zoom with Fuji, you gotta turn counterclockwise, but with Sigma, you need to turn clockwise. So it's something that will require a little bit of muscle memory, and it's always going to be different from Fujifilm lenses. So it kind of poses a little bit of a issue, because if you don't use the lens on a daily basis, you may find, at least at the beginning, trying to zoom and then going the opposite way, and it's going to make you lose that specific moment that you were looking at. But again, it's just a matter of muscle memory. So bottom line, considering also the fact that it doesn't have any stabilization, the build quality is decent. I mean, there's nothing to really complain about, but it's also nothing to write home about. It's a decent lens that has the big advantage of being tiny and lightweight. I went on and on a lot on the dimensions of this lens and its weight, because it's unusual for mid-range zoom, which is f2.8, to be this small and this lightweight. But all of that makes no sense if this is not backed up with at least decent image quality. Because at the end of the day, it may be perfectly portable, but if it sucks, you're not going to use it anyways. I'm happy to report that in this case, Sigma managed to squeeze good image quality inside of a miraculously small zoom range, which happens to be f2.8. So let's start analyze the sharpness. As usual, since I got the XH2, these tests are made with the XH2 to get the most resolution out of this lens, to see also if this lens is capable of resolving that resolution. And I'm happy to report that the lens is already very sharp wide open at 18 millimeters. There's visible vignetting, don't get me wrong, and corners are not even comparable to the center, although they're not super bad. But unfortunately, in the corners, you get some chromatic aberration. When you stop down to f4, most of the vignetting is gone, although it's not completely gone. And the overall sharpness of the image gets a boost, more in the corners than in the center, which was already good at f2.8, although corners don't get the same sharpness as the center does. And at f5.6, between f5.6 and f8, you get the most out of this lens, with corners getting a little bit better, vignetting being completely gone, and the center being very sharp. Mind you, at 18 millimeters, you're not going to have perfect corner-to-corner sharpness. The corner never quite catch up with the center sharpness. It's something to keep in mind. Not necessarily a bad thing, depending on what you shoot. Diffraction, but this is more of an issue due to the high density of the sensor, starts to kick in at f11, which is still usable. At f16, it already damaged the quality a lot, and at f22 it's basically unusable. When you zoom the lens at 23, 24 millimeters and 35 millimeters, so in the middle of the zooming range, the lens is very sharp, corner to corner, straight from f8. It's got an impressive result in that range. Vignetting, as usual, goes away at f5.6, and there's no chromatic aberration in the corners and all of that. The lens is very, very good in like in the middle of the zooming range. Again, 23, 35. I didn't zoom each and every single millimeter, but that's enough to tell us how good the lens is. At 50 millimeters, the center is still sharp, although not as sharp as the other focal lengths, but the corners tend to suffer, and this is the same even at f5.6. So I guess I can say the worst performance comes at the telephoto end, which is kind of expected with lenses like this. The lens can focus fairly close, actually very close, although it softens up a little bit when you get to the minimum focusing distance. As soon as you back down a little bit, it's fine, but if you're at a very minimum focusing distance, that tends to lose some sharpness. Although I must say that if you use that as a close-up lens, not getting right there, the image is very, very sharp, and you can get the very good result for close-up shots, both at 18 and 50 millimeters. Of course, the minimum focal distance gets closer at 18 millimeters, and it tends to force you to push you away as you zoom in. The bokeh is decent, it's nothing to write home about, but it's not bad. It can get busy at times, especially at the wide end. Purple fringing wide open is visible, and it gets better as you stop down, and it's more visible at the wide end than at the telephoto end. Longitudinal chromatic aberration is present. It's not too distracting, but it's there. You can see it, and like in general, the image quality goes from decent to good to sometimes very good. Zoom lenses are always compromises, and especially if you want to keep them small and lightweight, you add even more compromises, and sometimes that can destroy the final result. I'm happy to report this is not the case. When it comes to autofocus, in the test that I've done, it is to me silent, fast, and reliable. I used it in a family event environment. I'm not showing you any picture because those are private, and I got a good keeper rate of even around 80%, even with my nephew running around. So honestly, kind of surprising there. I liked what I got from an autofocus standpoint, and the good thing is it doesn't hunt too much. Actually, it doesn't hunt most of the time. And for static shots like those that you usually get at events, those pose shots that you have to take, where a zoom like this may come very handy. It's never gonna miss a shot. Like the cake shot, it's gonna go perfectly fine 100% of the time. When it comes to video, I haven't used it specifically for video works, so I suspend my judgment on the overall reliability. But for as far as I can say with the test that I've done, of course the stabilization is not there, so it relies on the stabilization of the camera. And honestly, with XH2 and XH2S, results are pretty good. I cannot really complain about that. It looks like not having a stabilization that could fight against the camera helps the final result. The autofocus, even in video, is reliable in tracking, although in the tests that I've done, when I'm turning away in a busy environment, it tends to hunt a little bit. But in a more normal situation, it didn't lose anybody. So it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. And you gotta also factor in the fact that it may depend from the camera algorithm than from the lens itself. The focus transition are usually very nice, although when it starts to struggle getting the focus, it tends to hunt, and it goes like a little bit beyond and then back, a little bit forward and then back. In general, that is not the case in easy scenarios. The transitions are really good, but it's not 100% smooth all of the time. Something to keep in mind. Focus breathing is very well controlled. It's almost unnoticeable. I mean, you can notice some, but it's nothing to worry about at all. Unfortunately, the aperture, if that is the only parameter that you have variable in your shot when you shoot in video, doesn't move steplessly. It has steps, so you cannot rely on that. You better rely on a fixed aperture and then move like an ND filter, a variable ND filter, to slightly adjust the exposure if you want to have it done in a smooth way. In general, however, this is a good performer for video. Again, I will shoot another video once I finally tested this lens in all the scenarios that I'm going to use. But for now, I can pretty confidently say that it passed my test when it comes to video. As you've seen, the lens performs decently good, very good at times, but it's not like a spectacular lens that is going to make you scream of joy when you use it. The thing that is going to make you scream of joy when you use it is the fact that you start thinking that the lens is very compact, very lightweight, very, very affordable, because this is a lens that costs slightly above 500 euros or dollars. Just think about that. An f2.8 zoom with good performance, not stellar, but good, sold at 500 and something euros with this size. Like, isn't it like a dream for those users that don't necessarily rely on a lens like this all time for making their life? I would not use this lens probably if that was my main money maker. I would probably go with the 16 to 55. Speaking of which, Let me know in the comments below if you want me to test this lens against the 16-55 and the 18-55 from Fuji, because I think that is a comparison that makes a lot of sense. But for those that may need a lens like this but don't want to spend a fortune on the 16-55, or don't want to carry a lens like that, like the 16-55, for just a couple of shots that you know you're gonna need a zoom lens to take, this lens is a great option. It's basically the perfect backup lens, or the perfect casual lens that you may want to have, and it can basically replace a prime if you want to, even if you want to go like lightweight with just one camera and one lens. It's so small, it's so tiny, it's also decently good from an optical performance, and it's so affordable that having a lens like this, you don't have to think about it too much. For me, I bought this lens because I know I'm going to be shooting events here and there, but I cannot justify buying the 16-55. I don't want to carry a 16-55 in my backpack just to use it once. A lens like this, for me, makes a lot of sense, but a lot of sense. And if you're like me, or if you're on a budget, because this lens can get the job done, even if this is your main lens, it may not be as good as the 16-55, but it's going to get the job done. It's going to get the job done in on a budget. I would probably see this lens perfectly fitting on an XS10 or XS20 when it's going to come out, an XT30, XT40 when that's going to come out, and all of that. This is the zoom that I would probably combine with a camera like that, because it's gonna be giving you great results in a small form factor, not weighing a lot, and in a very cost-effective way. I guess that's pretty much it with this lens. I'll see you in the next one, which is not gonna be before Christmas. So Merry Christmas and probably Happy New Year. I'm gonna take a 15 days break because I have to do a lot of stuff. I need to lot of stuff. So we'll see you in the new year, and we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. So just subscribe, leave me a comment down below, leave me a thumbs up if you liked the video, leave me 2 thumbs down if you didn't, and enjoy your Christmas time. I'm not a big Christmas guy, but I hope you are, and you will enjoy the time that is ahead of us. Bye, and I'll see you in the next one.